Good afternoon all, and welcome to the Commit Happy Hour here on Friday the 19th of March. And today we've got a fantastic set of people in here on the panel. We've got Thomas, Mario, Sally and Mark, and we're going to be looking at how we can make better use of the data from our field services to improve quality, to improve safety and to improve productivity on our sites. The bottom line there, of course, is it drives value to all the activities we do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm in for this. We're going to settle back, listen in to the team, make sure you've got a beer or a whiskey or whatever it is available, and enjoy the show. So I'm going to hand you over to Stuart, who's going to take you through the opening parts and then introduce you to the team. So, Stuart, over to you.
Good luck.
Thanks, Ian, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. Couple of intros. What is Commit? For those that don't know, Commit is a collaboration platform of client owners, contractors, solution providers, and of course, academia. Commit has a long history of developing and running demonstration projects with its members. It focuses on increasing value through productivity improvement. As an example of that, Commit recently completed, in conjunction with a member of Commit, developed and deployed a solution app for COVID-19 tracking on construction projects. That is now deployed. It's a commercial operation and is delivering value to its users. But of course, behind all technological initiatives in our industry is one simple goal, and that is, of course, improving productivity. And often the best improvements come from a combination of knowledge, that's our people, the process, and of course the technology. Commit and its community has identified with the major barriers facing the industry and has developed a unique opportunity to create enablers with the potential of beneficial change that would lead to cross-industry improvements. It's only by being collaborative with all of these stakeholders we can create improved ways of enablement through process improvement and ultimately through demonstration projects. The long-term aim is to reduce capital project costs by up to 30% and a reduction in cycle times by up to 10%. I want to just encourage everybody that's on the call to not wait to the end for the questions. If you could put them into the dialogue box on the right hand side, and when it gets to the questions and answers session, we can read them in order. And thank you for that. Okay, so on to today's session. If I can just click the next slide. So, okay, today's session, entitled Leverage Data from the Field to Drive Greater Quality, Safety and Productivity on Your Sites. Construction sites generate tons of data, as we know, on a daily basis, most of which can be used to drive tangible business benefits for a company's bottom line. But joining us today, we're going to hear how project controls, which are often cited as creating particular issues at site level, can be managed better, and how leveraging technology can help you overcome the challenges of data silos, data analysis, and how organizations can move along the path of AI from the ground up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I get into the session, I'm just going to do some quick poll questions. I've got 3 here, and fingers at the ready. I'm going to launch the first one. Okay, you should see that on your screen in a second or so, but the first one is this: do you already use field data for data collection and analysis? That should be appearing right now. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, I can see that fine, Stuart. I think I'd like to think most people will use, will tick yes, but having seen way too many sites out there still using a bit of paper clipped to and a bit of cardboard that's been found on some packing. Yeah, I would hope, of course, those who are involved in the bit world would always say yes, but yeah, one never knows.
Okay, I'll give everybody that's good. I think everybody's voted now. I'll just close that up and I will share the results.
There we go. 32% say no.
Yeah. I think what's good about that is people are being honest. Because it would be very easy to go, oh, of course, no worries, we do everything like that. But yeah, I don't think it would be an honest answer.
Okay, next poll question. If no, what are the challenges that stop you from doing so?
I think sometimes price is always a tricky one to deal with, because it's that value proposition, taking the words, you know, taking that sort of that bill to the project manager and going, look, I want you to spend some money. It's never an easy conversation, especially if you don't have a value proposition to take to them at the same time. And proving that bottom line ROI is, yeah, so difficult. The other time, lack of time, of course, because it's kind of, yeah, I haven't got time to do that. I need to get on with delivering things on site. So it could be all of the above, really.
Yeah, well, thanks for that one. Okay, so let me share the results on that. 36% price. 55% difficulty to deploy. Goodness.
Yeah, I can see that with a lot of difficulties with communications on site, and also a lot of, we still have the same health and safety problems. It's not exactly a health and safety problem, but it's a problem where the health and safety team blanketly say you can't use any mobile devices on the construction site. But you can use it in a sheet pen over there. But the problem, of course, is if you're standing in a sheet pen over there, you're not at the point of data collection. So it makes it very difficult to see a, you know, like a value in that activity.
Yeah. Okay, and the final question. Thanks for everybody's answers on that one. What are your goals for digitization on the field? On the field?
Well, I think we are all of the above, really, for a lot of them.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one out of that, what is your priority? Now, obviously, don't be shy, you know, because everybody would have to pick safety first, because that's the real key here. But actually, improving the other things might be slightly higher in your personal priority. So look at your personal priorities.
Amazing. Okay. Let me just share that now. Everybody's voted. Okay.
Good. Yeah. I think that's a really good slide there. What do you think, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm not surprised, to be honest. Productivity is the key here, right? A bit surprised on the safety front, but I guess we're just being honest here, right? And productivity and the bottom line and the quality of your project really has an impact on your business, right? So it's something that.
Yeah, and I think that's always the conversation you've got to have with your project manager, or the person who's going to put their hand in their pocket to pay for something, because they'll always go, well, how much is it going to cost me, and how much money is it going to save me? And it shouldn't come down to cold hard cash like that, but the conversation always does. I think Stuart, Sally is in the attendees bit at the moment. Needs to be promoted up into the into those products. For some reason, I can't do that.
No, and I can't either. For some reason, I can't bring her in. I'll deal with that in a minute. But let me just move on. Let me just move on to the next slide. Thanks everybody for running those poll questions. I think there's some quite interesting replies there. We will share that afterwards if anybody's interested. So on to the next question. One of the announcements I've got today is 2 new members. One of which Novade, and of course the other one that I've got on the screen there is correct. Now I've asked both Mark and Teas to introduce themselves. So to start off with, Teas, 30 seconds to introduce yourself and why you're involved in Commit, please.
Sure. Thanks, Stuart. I'm Tejas Thomas, and I represent Novade in the UK. Now, I'll share a lot more about Novade and what we do as a company in a few minutes. But essentially, since we just moved to the UK last year, and we found that Commit was a great association that was really talking about some key issues on construction sites, and we wanted to be part of the conversation. So here we are. I can hand over to Mark now.
Mark. Oh, you're on mute, Mark.
Yeah, standard. Yeah, so yeah, my name's Mark Reed. I'm the UK Sales Director at Corec. Corec is best known for being the supplier of Trimble survey mapping in the UK and Ireland. So obviously we're all about documenting construction sites and the physical environment around us, and we've been doing that for a very, very long time. And really, you know, our objective is to kind of really bring that experience and knowledge we have of kind of survey mapping and technology, and to understand really what the requirements are of the industry better, and understand how we can apply that advanced technology that we have to help solve those problems. So I think today's topic is really a good one about that, because a lot of what we do is about documenting the site in the field, and then it's about how we can take that information and extract value from it and make decisions. So it's very similar to talking about today, but we're very much focused on the location and the spatial element of that.
Okay, great. Thanks both. I'll move on to the next, and I'll introduce the team. We've met Teas already. I'll introduce Teas. Teas was with Novade, and Teas' strength, bringing the power of site data and analytics to the construction industry with the cutting-edge technology that improves quality, safety, and productivity. Teas is going to be the main presenter today, assisted by Mario when we get to the panel session, and of course we've got Sally and Mark. But Mario's been with us before. Mario's got a background in finance, FM, and IT. Mario's been active in providing applications for construction projects and contracts for over 25 years. As I said, has been a member of the Commit organisation since the mid-2000s, and has recently commenced partnering with Novade in the UK, and is delighted to be on today's session. Sally is a perfect delivery manager for Morgan Stanley Infrastructure, supporting the teams to deliver exceptional customer services. We'll hope to have Sally with us in a few moments. A couple of technical glitches get her on board, but we'll have her here shortly, one way or the other. And Mark, with a results-orientated business management background with over 20 years experience in business development and project management, a driven geomatics professional with specific expertise in advanced laser scanning solutions and the introduction of disruptive technologies. Thanks to all our session presenters today. So I'm now going to hand over to Teas, who's going to take us forwards to present the main session. So,
excellent.
1 second. Okay, Teas, over to you.
Excellent. So is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Excellent. So thanks a lot, Stuart, and thanks for everyone who's on the call with us today. The focus of our talk is going to be about fragmented data sets on the field and how we can overcome this challenge, right? So before we jump into the solution, I think it's best to contextualize the situation. I mean, the poll questions went to support what we are saying, right? So traditionally, if you look at any construction sites, there is a mixture of traditional data entry and data collection tools and modern systems. So your traditional tools will include things like paper check sheets. I've also categorized Excel and so on as traditional systems because, yeah, let's be honest, it's pretty outdated, right? So in the modern side of things, you also have turnstile, site access systems. You have some basic quality and safety tools. You have document management systems. You even have WhatsApp and so on that feature as communication systems between teams and on site. Now, the challenge with the traditional systems is it requires substantial time to be spent in collating and transferring these data sets into a digital format. Now, this clearly will affect your productivity, and cause delays, which will have financial implications as well. When it comes to the modern systems, on the other hand, they are often use case specific and again create more data fragmentation, which often requires integration to overcome. Now, integration, as anyone from the IT industry will tell you, is a continuous process that requires maintenance, and it is also very costly, right? So all these data sets from both systems need to be collated, and then only can you really leverage on a complete data set and draw analytics. So let me introduce Novade now at this point. So Novade is a tech company that was founded in Singapore roughly 7 years ago. In the past 7 years, we've managed to expand our presence into 22 countries. We have more than 220 enterprise customers and have been deployed on more than 1,000 sites. We have around 100,000 users who use our system every day. That just goes to show that it's a robust technology that's already mature. Now, if you look at the industry and who we work with, so we work with all the stakeholders in the industry, right from the owners and developers. The owners also include government entities who directly procure Novade to manage their properties and assets. But the biggest chunk of our business comes from contractors. So if you look at the names on the page, you might see some prominent industry players, right? So we work with China Construction, which is the largest contractor in the world, actually. We work with Bouygues Construction, Eiffage, Lendlease, Costain, Colas, and so on, right? We also do a bit of business in the engineering service providers or utility spaces, but that is a smaller part of our operations. Now, this slide is one of my favorites, essentially, because it's simple. In a simple manner, it tells you what we do. If you look at the left-hand side of the screen, you have your traditional repetitive tasks for data entry, right? What we digitize all these data, these tasks, make them available on mobile and tablets so that users on the ground can key in data as they go. And all this data is then subsequently pushed onto our web interface, which then analyzes it, categorizes it, and gives you the information you need to drive decision making. Now, the Novade platform, unlike other platforms, is pretty broad in its use cases. So we have segmented our product portfolio by operational modules. So we have tools like Novade Quality to manage all your QA/QC related stuff and any assurance documentation. We have safety/HSE that allows you to drive a good safety culture on your sites and manage incidents, near misses, and so on. We have reports to track your production and your plan versus actual in real time. And we also have supporting modules for maintenance to manage your equipment and assets, workforce to generate your timesheets and time cards digitally and use mobile phones as your check-in, check-out systems. And we also have activity that can be used to track your tasks and your milestones and view them in relation with any compliance document that is required for the same. Now, unlike other systems, our value proposition is simple. Even though we have fragmented by operational modules, it's all consolidated on a single application that ensures that your data sets can be analyzed because it's all on the common platform. Now, we have a wealth of features, and I'm not going to get into them at this point, but just to show you, the idea behind the platform was to create a consolidated location for all your drawings, your workforce information, so your staff competencies and qualifications, any documents that you have, your asset registers, and also your digital assurance and form work or paperwork documentation. All this data is then pushed into our tool for analytics called Novade Insights, and I'll get into that at a later point. But regarding deployment, now, so the poll question actually asked about how easy the platform, the difficulties of deploying a digital solution. And I do agree, it is a challenge, but the challenge lies in standardizing your data set. So the first thing we require from our customers is basic project information and technical requirements for what they want the system to do for them. The next thing we do is we'd send the customers their credentials to log in and download the app and log in. Now, the simplicity of setting up Novade comes from the fact that all the data imports on the system are managed purely via Excel. So any Excel files can be imported and it will be transformed into a digital format. And finally, we provide all site users and training, and then the system goes live. So we try to keep it as fast and efficient as possible to get sites live in a matter of 1 or 2 or 3 weeks. Now, today's talk is going to be primarily focused on quality, safety, and productivity. So the first topic is Novade Quality, right? So with the Novade Quality module, you can manage your quality standards by digitizing your workflows and ensuring that things are done right the first time around, which will then reduce the cost of rework. And we also have the ability to include all your stakeholders, be it a client or into the platform with different sets of viewer rights, so that they can also be part of the rectification process and from a quality perspective and feel involved, which thereby boosts customer satisfaction. The next module we're going to talk about a little bit is called Novade Safety HSE. Now, Safety HSE is a very powerful tool that allows you to enforce your safety and health safety and environment standards, and engage every stakeholder on site to report or identify any issues, create digital toolbox talks or meetings, and generate follow-up actions from them, manage your safety inspections, track incidents or near misses, even observations, be it positive, negative, or neutral, so that you can prevent issues from becoming big problems before they occur, essentially. Now, the last module we're going to focus primarily on is Novade reports. Productivity was a big factor on the polls, so I think the reports module is one of the best examples of the same. Essentially, with the Novade reports module, we track 4 key metrics that affect your project progress. Right, so you have your activities and your production. So we allow you to key in data on your planned production versus your actual production to see where you are veering off course. We also track your workforce deployment. So how much human resource are you deploying for each activity and task? Where are you spending on overtime? Where are you getting things done faster? Similarly, we manage your supplies and we track your planned consumption of supplies versus your actual consumption, so that you can draw correlations between any quality issues and the implications it has on your material consumptions and so on. And the last thing we track on the reports module is your equipment utilization. So for which tasks are you using equipment or machinery? How often they break down? What is the status of your machinery? What energy requirements it has? And how long it spends idle. All this data is then entered into a single report. And we've created a new tool called Novade Diaries, which allows all reports from different supervisors or foremen from across the site to be aggregated into a single report. So the project management can have one quick glance to get an idea of the key metrics that affect their business. Now, I'm just going to show you a quick demo of the Novade reports module. It's been pre-recorded and it should start now.
So how to create a report? First of all, we go to the start page. We choose the product in which we want to create a report. Let's say Novade building, choose our report module, create a new report for the 17th of March. And then we have our report created for the painting team because the user I'm using is in the painting team. We have the shift, start time, and end time. We have the weather data that is automatically retrieved. And then we have our categories, activity, supply, workforce, and equipment. Let's log in our workforce data, check in our staff. We have the check-in time, checkout time, break duration, and let's check in Axel, Ayman, and Clelia for these times. Let's leave Yanis out of it because he was on paid leave. And then we add Yanis, who was on leave, leave type, paid leave, we add Yanis. And then we have created our data for the workforce. Let's add in an activity. We are in the painting team again. So we're gonna add in a white painting activity, for example. Start time, let's say around 7. End time around 3. We have the duration of the working time. We have the room it took place in, let's say at floor 1. And the game room, surface painted in white, is 10 meters square, let's say. We can add in a description, pictures, and comments. And then let's do the resource breakdown for the activity and link the workforce to that activity, add resources. Let's check in Axel, Ayman, and Clelia, check in several people. Clelia, Ayman, and Axel, all hours worked. And then log it in. And then go back to the report. And that's our report. We also can export it by PDF and see the full report. And now we submit it. So and it will go to the project manager to close it. And so that's it. We close the report. We can see in the history when it was created, when it was submitted to the project manager. And let's assume now that I'm the project manager. I go back to the report, I check it out, I close it, I make any comments if necessary.
Right, now that was a very short demonstration on the reports module, but the main topic for this call is actually analytics and data, right? So what do you do with your data once you have it digital? as you can see, Novade has a wide range of operational modules that collects all your data sets in a single platform. What we also have is an additional tool called Novade Insights. It allows you to basically visualize all your data sets across your modules and draw correlations from by adding in different variables so that you can perform your own analytics in your own time. And it also automates your reporting and administrative tasks, so you don't spend any time doing traditional preparation for monthly or weekly meetings and so on, right? Now, this slide is also an interesting one because it shows you the path to AI. And it's a similar trend that occurs even in the manufacturing industry to move towards a more just-in-time or a more planned and well, timely schedule, right? So the first step is to define your processes. Now, this is often the biggest challenge, and this is why it's often difficult to deploy solutions on site, because processes in the construction industry are challenging to standardize and define. But once you've standardized and defined the same, you can then start automating them and collecting data sets. Once you have data sets, you can start providing very basic descriptive analytics. That's essentially charts and dashboards to show you what's going on. Now, most companies are currently here. But what we at Novade do is we work with our largest clients who have the broadest data sets to start generating predictive models and running these models on their databases so that we can start anticipating what is likely to happen based on historical data and the variables that exist on site today. Finally, when the models reach a level of accuracy that is good enough, we start generating prescriptive analytics for the same, which tells site users what they should do or they could do based on the risk classifications that they face. So this is the clear path to AI, and this is the steps that we must take. But the key lies within process definition, standardization, and automation. The rest is relatively straightforward. Now, I'm just going to show you a quick video of Novade Insights for the quality module. Now, as I mentioned, Novade Insights comes with over 200 charts and dashboards. All these charts and dashboards are completely flexible and dynamic. So any selections made on any dashboards or charts will update the others as they need to be done. Now, you can also export all these charts and dashboards in any other format that you prefer. So it could be PDF reports, Excel files. You can export underlying data sets to manage your own internal analysis if you prefer as well. So on the quality interface, you see a lot of information about your defects or your snags on the overview page, but you also have a wide variety of charts and dashboards, right? So you can set performance standards and you can set targets and see where you stand against your own internal targets or project specific or even company specific benchmarks. So this allows you to see build a little competitive spirit on site across different projects and as an organization, and it also gives you clear visibility of the status of things from a quality perspective, if you're looking at quality for insight. So you have some clear metrics here on delays and the impact it has on the project, the recurring types of defects or snags that you find on site, the median time for closure broken down by subcontractors and by trade. So you understand the implications it has on other activities that may follow them, right? And you also see quality performance as it's evolved over time. So this is just simple things like defects, but also complex processes like ITPs or even other quality assurance documentation, right? So material acceptance records and so on can be managed and tracked. And you can also do some pretty impressive things with the quality module with regards to material management. But we can get into that at another time. So this was a quick overview of Novade Insights. Now, rather than go on my own, what I thought would be better was we could show you a customer testimonial from Eiffage Génie Civil and SPI Batignolles for the Lyon-Turin tunnel project SMP4, which was a very large tunnel project that we worked on. Now, bear in mind, so the video was originally in French, but we have dubbed over it in English. So it might not seem the most natural of sounds, but yeah, it should be clear enough.
The St. Martin Laporte 4 construction site a project which began in 2015 and will continue till 2021, will mobilize many people. At its peak, there are more than 500 people on site. We have excavated nearly 10 kilometers with a tunnel boring machine, and 2 kilometers through traditional means with a lot of amenities, such as pumping and electricity. It's a building site that runs constantly, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and it creates a huge amount of data. This translates to at least 8 to 10 reports a day, which are traditionally summarized by the work supervisor. All these papers take up a lot of physical space. It also takes approximately 2 to 3 hours a day to redo a synthesis, which is really just a compilation of existing data. The solution to digitize reports was intended as a step for workers to focus on their essential roles and optimize processes, instead of wasting time to process, reprocess or over-process data. Before Novade, we lost a lot of time processing the data and not utilizing it. I use Novade for everything from following up on production during frontline work to pointing out the different tasks and their duration and seeing the problems that have happened. The application saves us time on tracking and gives us a more comprehensive view, which we did not have on paper. It performs well, saves time, and digitalizes paper processes, which is good for the environment, and it also allows information to be shared instantaneously.
So that was just a quick customer testimonial, but essentially the key takeaways that I want to share is Novade is not attempting to replace the existing ecosystem for tools on site. We just provide a one-stop solution for key site data. So things like your quality, safety, workforce, equipment and assets, your activities, your reporting, so that all the stakeholders on your site can really collaborate with a single platform, which will simplify the process of digitization and adoption on site. And adoption is critical when it comes to getting valuable data sets. So we also understand that the ecosystem is much broader. So we are completely open. We have open APIs that can plug into other systems such as ERP systems or design tools and so on. We've done a lot of this in the past, and we continue to do so on a daily basis. Now, the key takeaways also will include the business benefits that we see our customers receive. First and most importantly is there is a level of transparency within your sites, which is facilitated by real-time data flows, right? This transparency and visibility allows people to take accountability and make decisions based on site facts. Secondly, because of the simplicity of the platform and the ability to process data for you, you spend a lot less time collecting all these data sets and entering them into a different source, so that performance can be driven up to a higher level. Finally, because you digitized all your data sets across all your projects and you have a historical look back as to where you did well and where you did badly, you can also improve your competitivity when you place your bids by understanding the challenges that occurred on similar projects and putting in place steps to ensure it doesn't occur again. And with that, I would like to hand over back to Stuart, as I am done with my bit.
Thanks, Tess. That was superb. Brilliant oversight. And you've actually come in ahead of time.
Thank you. Happy
Yeah,
to.
absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you. So let me just take back control. We have a whole bunch of questions came in during that presentation. So just give me a second. I will. Right, just 1 second. Okay.
Excellent.
You should be able to see. Okay, so we're into question time, and if I can invite everybody to come back in now, switch your webcams on and your microphones on, and we'll line up left to right. We've got Mark, we've got Teas, just need Mario, and we need Sally. Sally, there's Sally. Hello, Sally. And Ian. There we are. Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for that, guys. That was brilliant. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of questions here. I'm going to try and start off with the most relevant. So one question I've got, Teas, is does the app work offline?
It does indeed. So Novade, the mobile applications and the web interface runs completely offline, so that especially on some sites, be it in a basement or even in remote areas, internet connectivity is not the best. So it runs completely offline, and yeah, that's completely covered.
Okay, and another burning question here is, can you connect the Novade software with other software?
Yep. So it was something I talked about, right? So we have open APIs that allow us to plug into your ecosystem and integrate with any other tools that you use. So yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take a question from. All right. There's a specific one on it's along the same lines, really. Does it interface with P6?
It could interface with P6 speed, and so we've done work with P6 in the past, and we've also done a little bit of work with projects. So yes, can be done.
Okay, great. One other question here is asking about the setup. Can it be customized by the customer?
Yes, indeed it can. So
You did touch on that, but yeah.
It's just a matter of putting Excel files onto the system, and then the customer can completely run with it. So yeah.
Fantastic. So I've got a bit of a question on this one about the remote connectivity. So obviously, when you're out and about on a lot of construction sites, you are limited in any sort of connectivity. Does that sort of, if a signal becomes available, because as you move around, suddenly you get a 3G, 4G, heaven forbid, you might get a 5G, especially after you've had your COVID jab. Yeah. or so some people say. So I'm presuming as soon as you get a signal, it will start to transmit back up to get information like that, which is potentially time critical, I presume, back to a central world.
Correct. So you're absolutely right, right? And as soon as you get a signal on your mobile device, it's going to push data from that to the cloud, and then it's going to share with all other stakeholders that you have, who will receive real-time notifications as soon as the data sync is completed.
Ah, excellent. Thank you. Good stuff.
Thomas, I have a question. Is it possible to connect the app to like some external hardware, whether it's GPS for position or a sensor to measure something or something like that?
It is indeed. We connect with a lot of sensors. We also connect with a lot of AI cameras. So with the COVID situation in the world right now, what we did was in Singapore, we started connecting to all these thermal scanners on site that were put up, so that anyone with a temperature, immediately the health and safety team and the project management would receive a notification saying that someone on site has a temperature, they might want to get tested. Or we also track social distancing using these cameras. And so there are a lot of hardware tools that we already have built-in plugins with, and we are always in the lookout for more tech to integrate with. So yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, question from the floor. Thank you, Francis. The question is this: is Novade available as, it's jumped, as an off-the-shelf tool or only as a supported service?
So Novade is essentially a very off-the-shelf tool. It is a very configurable tool. So depending on the scales of your requirements, right? So processes are typically not so standard across businesses. There are slight variations. So there is a level of custom configuration required. So it is completely off the shelf. The operational modules are standard. You just need to configure your documentation or your workflows as you would in your own organization. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just going to bring in the others on this. Whilst there's a whole bunch of questions aimed at you, Teas, I'm going to bring in. Let me ask Sally a question here. Teas talked about the application relating to the ability to sign off QA aspects, but in Morgan Sindall, how, in respect of QA in Morgan Sindall, the data capture, how do you currently do that?
Okay, so I got involved with this back in about 2012 when I first joined the Perfect Delivery team, and it was really a case of customers were asking us how you close out your projects to be snag-free. So since then, 9 years ago, it's inconsistent. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of handwritten notes still on paper forms. We're really trying to bring the culture into using mobile devices, iPads and iPad minis, and even mobile phones to capture. So we can digitize forms that relate to our IMS, and we can then ask our teams to capture data out on the site, which could include a photograph, and it's all date and time stamped. So that's where we're moving towards. That will be our utopia for it to be consistently like that within infrastructure. But we've got teams like up in Sellafield and some, dare I say it, people that haven't embraced the technology. So that to me is the challenge. It's having the consistency.
So Sally, don't answer this if you, if you don't want to. But do you find the inconsistencies out there are caused by the project teams saying, you know, like the questions right at the very beginning, it's kind of, we're busy on the project, we haven't got time to roll out a new bit of tech or roll out a new bit of thing, or do you find it's down to the culture of individuals that don't like change? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'd say it's a mix of both. Obviously, if you're implementing a new system, you do need to take the time and set it up from the beginning. And that's where we've had blockers in the past where we started a system using this, so we're going to continue with that until the end of the project. We had some major successes at Heathrow, and of course that business unit has diminished substantially, as you can imagine, in the last year, where we were getting some fantastic consistent data, where we could run reports on all of the aviation projects and how they're performing against quality assurance and safety. But yeah, the blockers for me have always been, you know, I'm too old to learn something new, or we're too busy and we haven't got time.
Yeah, we found early on in the commit world, a lot of the blockers were down to the kind of the project manager would. It's almost a competition between project managers in an organisation in the fact that my project's going to be more productive, more cost effective, or whatever it is that they want to be, and so they almost won't tell the other project managers that they're using a great bit of technology that's saving them time and money and whatever it is, because they want to be the top of the tree. I think whilst, you know, competition can be quite healthy, I always found it a bit of a frustration. They say, no, I'm not going to tell anybody else that we're doing some great stuff. I mean, blimey, they might do it as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I particularly enjoyed your presentation, Teas, and especially relating to the customer satisfaction side. So my role is really about getting our customers on board and delighted, and assuring them that we're actually building them what they want, quite simply. But yeah, if customers are asking for it, then it sort of encourages our teams to collaborate better.
So yeah, I know I agree 100%, Sally, because essentially we have a lot of projects in Asia. I mean, we just moved to the UK last year, and we've managed to sign up on a few big projects already. But I mean, yeah, the timing was perfect. We moved during lockdown, so. But that being said, in Asia we have a lot of government entities who just directly procure the software and enforce it on all their contractors, right? Because that simplifies the whole system, because then the government or the client, whoever it is, receives a consolidated data set from one in a single format, and yeah, essentially bringing the customers into the loop, making them part of the process, is always going to boost the customer satisfaction levels.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
thanks for that. Sorry, Ian, go on. I was
going to say that sort of rings true with the you know, the government soft landings type side of the world, and the fact that we've got to bring that end user in to this whole thing. We've got to find out what do they actually want, what information do you need to generate on a construction site that the end user will actually value and want to purchase from the client. because in the end, when you buy a brand new car, you want certain pieces of information to help you drive it, to maintain it, to get the best out of it. And that information has to be generated during the manufacture of the building of it. And if you don't generate the information, the end user is going, well, I'll buy somebody else's stuff. So yeah, completely being able to find out what that end user wants, what they're going to value, massively important. So Mark, on the Corec side, do you find the sort of data collection technology, do you find that as something that people are getting more of on a construction? I'm not talking specifically about scanners or things like that, just purely hardware for collecting data in a rugged way.
Yeah, definitely. I think generally, it's never been kind of easier or simpler or faster to capture as is site condition information, whether it's spatial 3D information, whether it's recording defects or whatever it is. And there's a lot of solutions out there, and I think they're becoming more accessible and easier to deploy. I mean, an example being, when I was asking Thomas there, we now have like pay-as-you-go survey grade GPS solutions that will maybe do 1 centimeter position, but you can connect it to your mobile phone and connect it to an app like Novade and actually add that extra dimension to the information you're capturing. And the ability to start capturing that information at that level of accuracy is really important, because what it does is it allows you to capture that information at effectively a higher temporal resolution. So you're capturing that up-to-date as-is site information more rapidly, more often, and then of course with that you're making decisions quicker, you're finding problems quicker, you're reducing your rework, and overall generally improving that efficiency, whether it's timeline, whether it's safety or cost. So yeah, I think it's definitely the general trend is going in that direction.
I like the word you use, the pay-as-you-go type style, because a lot of the stuff I'm finding on a site is that people don't want to pay a big chunk of money right at the very beginning. The vagaries of the site might not actually, it might be there for 6 months and then it might be slowed down for 6 months and then it's going to ramp back up again. The 6 months in the middle, I don't want to be paying, that sort of 2 years, whatever it is, fee to do that. But to be able to almost, pay per bit, per megabit, per paper, whatever it might be, that sounds really quite interesting. I wonder whether actually, having just said that, it's counterproductive in the fact that if you're paying per megabit, people will collect less information because they don't want to pay quite so much money. I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
This whole kind of software as a service, or spreading the cost over the project tends to be the way the industry is going. But I think what I found is, because this kind of technology is becoming more accessible and easier to deploy, it's used throughout the full life cycle of the project. So historically, surveying and mapping tools might be used to survey the existing site before you do the design, and then it's not used particularly after that. They do the design and do the construction. But now, as well as doing that initial survey, you're using these tools to visualize what it might look like, or you're using it to verify the construction progress and whether things are being put in the right place, or you're using it to do your as-built in your handover and even your ongoing maintenance of the infrastructure. So because it's becoming more accessible, it's being used and adopted more across the life cycle of the project, I think.
Yeah. Got a bit of one for Marion, just jumped into my mind here. Obviously the golden thread is quite an important thing that we've got to be thinking about at the moment with the likes of the Grenfell report and Hackett review. I can see this having an ability to not only collect information as you go through, but also to be able to curate that and hand that over to make sure that that sort of thing is there any is there any examples of how that has helped through that, or is there something that you've looked at?
Sorry, were you addressing Mario there? Yeah.
Mario.
It's either you or me, Des. I mean, I've seen plenty of examples of that. I've been involved back in the day, not with Novade, but with other applications where it was quite crucial that the handover documentation showed all the evidence of what was being built when it was built, all the maintenance details. I mean, that's quite common now anyway, isn't it? You'd expect to see that as being handed over from the contractor to the client at the end of the build. I know that people like Crosstron and so on were enforcing that back in the day. I mean, a while back now, when I used to go over there and see them, and they were saying, we have to have the details as we pass it through, and that's Kobe does that as well. I mean, it's quite a common thing nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm presuming, Sally, that the Grenfell report has had an impact on a lot of the things that you're doing as well. And tools like this are probably a better way than, as I've seen it so often, is somebody just tears out a bit of cardboard out the back of something and then starts writing notes from the construction site down on the back. I'm sure it still goes on. I'm not saying it does for yourselves.
No, that's right. Yeah. No, I mean, certainly with the involvement of the digital world, it's really helping. And the thing that we were searching for, I suppose, when I started getting involved was company-wide reporting. Because what we had at project level might have been local Excel spreadsheets, and you could identify snags and what had happened to them, not necessarily with photos. But now we've got systems where we can, at the click of a button, and using a piece of software called Power BI, I'm sure you've heard of it, drill down into really detailed data right from company level to business unit level, like highways, and then into each individual project as well. So it's really powerful to have that at your fingertips.
That is essentially what Novade Insights is actually. So Novade Insights.
I really could relate to that. It's brilliant.
It's similar to Power BI. Yeah, it's just internally built. Yeah.
Couple more questions from the floor, if I might just jump in. Sorry, go on, carry on.
Please do.
I was going to say there's a lot of it. It's just it's like I say, it's removing those silos of data and bringing that all together in one place. I think kind of capturing information in the field. It kind of keeps things evergreen as well, because so often we'll document a site, or you'll have that information there, and then it's as built or it's there, but then it's out of date the next day. So being able to rapidly populate that information in the field keeps it evergreen. And I think one of the trends we've seen, kind of particularly in the last 12 months with the current situation, is the kind of the greater adoption of kind of cloud technology. And using things on the collaborative tools that way that allow all those stakeholders to kind of come together and bring all that information into one place. So it's, in some ways, the current situation has driven that more, I think, than it was before.
Yeah. Can I just throw this one in? It's a question, I think it was touched on earlier in the session. Certain data, can it be classified as confidential to allow only limited access to authorized personnel? You did say that, didn't you?
So everything on the platform, every user based on their profile and role and job description has a customized viewer right on the platform, viewer rights. So everything is perfectly segmented. So do clients, right? So you can also set it up such that your clients only see what is relevant to them, not more, not less. Same for your internal stakeholders or external stakeholders. So yeah, it's completely flexible.
Okay, I'm just going to ask Mark a question before we go back to the floor. One thing I've got here is in the last 12 months, we've seen a number of ways how a modern construction site can operate. But what have we got? What have we got that we've learned from that we can expect to see in the future?
Yeah, no, I think, like I just hinted there, that I think effectively the current situation has allowed us kind of to digitally evolve probably quicker than maybe we normally would have, and I think that's one positive thing that's come out of the situation. I mean, just even having these kind of webinars and Teams calls and things much more than we ever does, and what that drives is that collaboration, And our CEO Alan, he always says that actually, you know, we're almost further apart, but we're communicating better than ever. So we're actually having more sessions like this with the team, actually bringing all the stakeholders together and using this kind of digital tools to do that. I mean, we have I'll give it an example. We have a solution which is like an augmented reality headset, like goggles and helmet, and you can actually dial into it on Teams. So we could have somebody on site on a construction site walking around, and everybody on the Teams call can see what they're seeing, and actually you can do a site walk without having everybody there. So you know that ability to collaborate, that ability to reduce the amount of people on site is huge. So actually it's helped a lot. And so, again, just like I was saying there,
you're not only saying mixed reality, augmented reality is hugely beneficial, but it's delivering some great benefits for all of construction, all of the construction space. And I think from what you're saying, there's more to come.
There's a huge amount. I mean, you'll find there's augmented reality now being used on most of the major projects in the UK at the moment. Most of the tier 1 contractors are using some level of augmented reality, whether it's, you know, showing what something's going to look like, or whether it is collaborative to every day doing your site briefing and showing, you know, what the design should look like, or where the things have been built where they should be put. So it's really come on a lot, and a lot of that has been linked to, you know, more devices bringing things into the field, and the ability to kind of get that positional improvement through kind of pay-as-you-go GPS and things like that. So it is now being adopted. So there's a number of benefits to it, without a doubt.
Yeah, you work very closely with Trimble as an organisation, and they've got a massive portfolio of survey and mapping solutions. But what in the way of site project control is coming to help drive efficiency? What can we expect to see from them in the next, say, 18 months?
I think you know, we talk about, already we've seen this massive increase in how fast and easy we can document the site and bring that information back to the office. But I think the future is actually bringing the design or the office into the site, actually, because you know we have automated scanning and all this kind of stuff, but if you can actually bring your design into site and visual it in real time, you know, against what's there, you can make decisions there and then. And you actually say, okay, you know, while I'm there, that's wrong, I need to make a decision, and I can feed that back. So I can make the decision and send that back to the office rather than sending the data back to the office to make the decision. You know, or then you've got, you know, from a criminal perspective, we've got the you know, spot the dog automated surveying guy, you know, running around actually doing the survey for you, so you don't even need the surveyor on site. So the capturing this field information is getting faster and easier. But then actually the challenge is how you get the value out of it, how you get the tangible result out of it to make the decision. And then where that happens, does it happen in the field or in the office? But yeah, it's advancing pretty quick. It's pretty exciting.
Sure. Well, thanks for that, Mark. Sorry, Ian.
There's a question coming that rings a bell with me from Fran Raybuck. Looking at normalizing data from multiple sources, you know, it's a question that's come up in the Centre for Digital World Britain. We've been looking at the Commons, the Digital Print Hub, looking at how he's talking here about naming conventions. In the fact, at the moment, what we've got is a lot of problems is that every manufacturer names something differently, and across the board. I mean, this was being brought up in the MEP world so many times, in the fact that just you know, a single bit of pipe is named loads of different times across the industry, and it makes tracking things very difficult on a construction site. I think Fran's question here is quite pertinent to that, because he's saying, well, you know, if I've got this identifier that's from this manufacturer and this manufacturer and this manufacturer, I bought things from different types of sites, how do I normalize that data in the system? Because, okay, so the system knows it as a bit of pipe, but actually the manufacturer knows it as pipe-01 or plastic piping, whatever it might be, 3Z4. What's our kind of like, almost like a Babel fish that you're looking for here to translate these things? How do you do that one, Thomas?
So essentially, if you look at materials management, right, on just to give you a simple example, let's look at concrete, right? A very simple use case of Novade is essentially every supplier is going to send you different types of concrete, and there are certain rules for how you use concrete, for what purpose, for what stage of the project, for what area, what location, right? Now, one simple thing we've done is every concrete delivery receipt comes with a QR code or a barcode on it, right? Now, QR codes and barcodes can essentially store information. So what we do is people use the Novade app, they just scan the QR code on any delivery they receive on site. Then the system is going to prompt them and tell them this is the material you need to use for this task, this activity, for this location, and so on. Right. So you can really simplify this. I mean, there is, in terms of standardizing it across an industry, that's a whole different conversation, right? But you can really simplify how you manage these materials on site and not make mistakes with the wrong materials and then have to rework it.
Yeah, it's just something that's out there. I think a lot is that common language that we need to use on that site for identifying things, even if it's just down to a fact that we have, like yourselves, some sort of database that says, well, this in your language means this in my language, which means this in somebody else's language. So when we all start analysing the data from our own perspective, we know we're looking at the same things that you're looking at. So I see that as quite an important thing, and it's a good question from Fran. Hopefully we've been able to answer that one. What other? I've noticed that we're past the hour here, Stuart. So I think we might be into extra time already. What questions have we got there?
We don't want to get to penalties though at the end. So sorry, that was a football analogy. We've got another question. I think this one we've marked for Mario. Not sure I don't think we've asked this one already. Is there any verification and/or sense checking required in the data reporting process, or does it report live data without any checks? That's from Rob Philpott. We didn't ask that one, I don't think. Mario, would you like to take that one?
I'm not sure who it's for. Why? Sorry.
I'm going through the questions and assigning them to people, but obviously it's not been pinging up on your screen. Whether you want
it's not on my screen. I mean, obviously data is being collected, is going to be checked and verified. Tayan, have we got any idea on this? Data, sorry.
I mean, if you could just repeat the question, Stuart. Sorry, I was.
Well, whether the data is being collected is verified before it gets put into the database, and it goes through a checking process.
Yeah.
That's a physical checking process rather than an electronic checking process, isn't it?
Sure, and essentially on digital systems, it's very simple to set acceptable ranges for values of fields. Right. So an acceptable range or an acceptable answer to a particular question is easy to define. So you can have these system level definitions made in advance so that people can't submit if it doesn't fit within the bounds of an acceptable range, right? Yeah. So you can put in kind of digital hard stops, but at the end of the day, there is a level of human involvement that is required to approve or sign off or move on to the next thing. So definitely tech can facilitate it, but then you need a human involvement to approve or close it off, right?
Yeah, I suppose it's the thing is with all this is that if you put bad data into a system, it pollutes it as such. So you've got to make sure that you verify what's going in. And the problem with that is that as soon as there's any sort of polluted data goes into something, people lose trust when they look at it the other end. The rest of the data might be absolutely fantastic, it might be spot on, but if they find one thing and they go, oh, that's not right, ooh, and they won't trust the rest of the data because they'll talk to their mates in the canteen and they'll talk to their buddies, and then nobody will want to use the system. So that sort of verification system, I think, is pretty important.
There's not a lot you can do about that, Ian. I think the various vaccines for COVID have held that out for the last few days. Anybody can say this is not good enough or it's a mistake or whatever, but nobody can be perfect all the time. You can just do the best you can always. And if someone's collecting wrong data, they're going to collect it just as badly on paper than they are using a digital method. With either digital method, at least it can be tracked backwards more easily than it can from a scrap of paper, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is the fact that you can see a provenance of something.
Yeah.
Because when we look at the Gemini principles, we look back at that middle one, which is all about trust. We look about the fact that if people will value information, they've got to be able to trust it. And if they can trust it, it's got to be some sort of audit trail, so they can see where it's come from, why it was generated, when it was generated, how it was generated, how it was verified, and then also how it was secured in the first place, so nobody can get in and tamper with that information as we're going through. And I think, you know, if you've got that ability, then you can always counter those news stories or whatever it might be that's driving the value down.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, and tell me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but you know, with a lot of field digital collection, it's rule driven. So you know, you can restrict what people can and can't input, or what they have to input, or what type of information they have to input. So actually, by having digital field collection instead of paper, you can actually enforce a set of rules about the data that's captured and actually put that quality into it. So I think having that kind of digital collection actually brings a much higher quality of data than you would get if it was just pen and paper, for example.
Yeah,
Indeed, that's,
yeah.
you know,
You'll also be able to check when data hasn't been submitted. I mean, I know we do that anyway, but it's a lot easier to check electronically than it is by handing bits of spreadsheet or whatever lying around.
Yeah.
And what's missing is as important as what's being collected.
With some of the automated systems that you're being able to connect to, whether it's a weather sensor, whether it's whatever it might be, that gives a bit more security to that, because you know it's being collected by system. So question for Sally on your sites, do you have sensors for things like weather, for temperature, humidity, so when you're pouring a bit of concrete, instead of them having to, you know, try and do a weather test, it's a sensor on the site itself?
Yeah, that's one thing that's been in place for a long time. Obviously, with working outside, we are at the, you know, the gift of the gods of the elements, of course. But what I was going to add to the points about the digital capture and whether it's the correct data and whether it's been checked, is the fundamental thing is we need to have the competent people that are gathering the data. So, you know, you don't want to send out a non-skilled operative to capture data that's engineering data. So we just need to make sure that's one of our challenges, actually. We've got the data, but is it correct?
Yeah. So do you explain to them why they're collecting that information? And do you have, because when we try and educate people in both in the military world and also in the engineering world, we give them a what's in it for them. Do you give them that sort of conversation of, well, this is why I want you to collect it, and this is what benefit it is to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the buy or sell, you know, the selling point really for us. And I suppose the challenge would be for our subcontractors. So one of our energy projects down in Dorset, we're using a subcontractor down there. And this is all new to them. Capturing data using a mobile tablet in the field, you know, normally they'd write down handwritten notes or get back to the office and try and type up something and can't remember where they were or what they'd done. So the subcontract element for us is probably quite a big challenge, and getting them to do it a different way that they've always, you know, traditionally done it.
Do you use any sort of voice capture? Because I find a lot of the operatives that I've worked with, their spelling isn't great, and so they're quite hesitant when they're writing a report to not use flowery words or anything like that, but actually to say what they want to say. So they end up putting kind of 20 words in because they're trying to work around a word that they can't spell. I have the same problem, being a dyslexic. But what I do is I do a lot of voice recording when I'm on the site. I just use, you know, voice memos, because then I can just say what I see.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout actually. And of course, you know, being in the construction industry, building industry, you know, there's so many different levels of even the style of handwriting, you know, completely illegible, some of this stuff. You don't even know who's done that, what date it was, or, you know, so yeah, voice recording is a good idea.
Yeah, I struggle to read my own handwriting.
Actually,
It's potentially the way to go, Gordon. There's one or two of the commit members have gone down that route, and I think you're right, Ian. You know, they're getting back to the office and writing things up. And Sally, you mentioned it as well. It's sometimes they do forget, and everybody's busy, and the opportunity to capture it as you see it, I think, is significantly better. But of course, then you've got the transposing of the data, and I think Warren's on the call. He'll testament that this is it is possible to do it and get it right. I think, you know, there's some research and development being done by Script and Go and others that have actually proved it works. So
when I'm doing that on a construction site, it's really noisy. I use one of these headsets. It's a bone conduction headset. So basically, it can be as loud as you like out here, but what it's doing is connecting the percussion on the you know, it's using the skull as its sounding board, which is great because my voice comes through loud and clear on my device, and also whatever I'm listening to on here, whether it's notes or whatever it is, comes through the skull. But I've still got a massive set of earphones on, which is great, which cuts out all the rest of the sound on the site. So I was really impressed with a pair of those. I don't think I'll ever go back.
Could you send the details over on that? That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I think Fran, I think he's on the call. He introduced them to me many years ago. On one of his Toys for Techies, he had this baseball cap, which the band on the baseball cap is just a, you know, what they call them, a bone conduction loop. Awesome. And the thought of putting one of those into a hard hat is kind of, why wouldn't you, really? Oh, sorry, Mark.
We have, the XR10. Sorry, I was going to say that the XR10 augmented reality solution that we have there, that I was mentioning earlier, that has that inbuilt into a hard hat. So it's the hard hat with that built in, and with goggles that come down, we give you the augmented reality, so you see your design through there. You get the noise through the bones, and then, you know, it's all built into the hard hat as well. So it's there now.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll send you some of the detail. I mean, it's just a simple set of aftershocks, relatively cheap, but yeah, you get better ones, the ones I've got. But yeah, very, very handy.
I was going to bring Warren in to maybe say a few words, but I can't unmute him. I don't know whether you can do it, Ian.
There's something really wrong with GoToMeeting today. I've been struggling to control the bit to the side and get the questions assigned. It's just
it's having a Friday afternoon, but never mind. Fran makes the comment. I think he calls it the synapse cap when relating to the was it? Yeah, GoldenEye and glass, old stuff. Let me see if I can, just for a few minutes, let me see if I can bring in Fran. We might have a bit more success with that.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so there's some cool tech to be able to do that. But very good.
There he is. Fran, you've got an open mic.
Guys, how you doing? Yes, that cap that you referenced that I had was called the Synapse cap. They were sort of an earlier version, and
we've lost you,
some
Fran.
batteries inside, and it had it used bone conduction for your speech. So when you talked and when you heard things, you didn't have things in your ears, because you know when things in your ears are in a construction site, there may be something rolling right behind you. So that was the early precursor. And then I did a lot of work with Google Glass. Well, actually, the precursor to Google Glass was called GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, all good
Can
now.
you see me now? Okay.
Yeah.
I have maybe later when somebody's talking, I'll go grab it or something. I actually have the old GoldenEye, and GoldenEye had the monocular thing in front of it, almost like not much bigger than a headset that you have, really, and they have configuration. But this is what's interesting. This will be the year of the pervasive use of glasses. There's many intended releases that will come this year from Apple and various others. One, the original inventors from GoldenEye, they are now making big inroads into the whole engineering construction. You have companies like Honeywell and Siemens, and I mean, the list goes on, that are using all this stuff. We had them do a session, and I can contact them and maybe do a session. In fact, I think that somewhere down the line, this should be a project of comparing the different things, or planning to compare different things. I don't know, too, if you know, but Amazon has glasses that can act like an Echo and work through your phone. So when you're on the site, you can say what, and you can get your prescription for the glasses, in those glasses done. And you can basically say things like, what is part number 6032 or something like that. Whatever you set up and program in Amazon to respond, whatever kind of apps, and it's pretty easy to do that stuff. But many, Samsung, Apple, Facebook, and some of these things will be consumer products. And I think this is going to very quickly pass the AR, XR, VR sort of world, because you can't use big glass, goggles on a construction site. It's not just during the design phase or in marketing and things like that. These things are built, and in fact, the one is actually ATEX compatible, so I can take it into certain areas like nuclear sites where you don't have sparks coming out or something like that and interfering. It's a whole great field that's being developed. We could, connect later.
Fascinating. Yeah. Can I just see if Warren wants to come in? He's got an open mic.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Warren, yeah, I can hear you. Do you want to say anything regarding the?
Just quickly on the voice recording. Most smartphones nowadays have the ability to open up a microphone and do a voice to text, and we use that in all of our apps for filling in notes. So we make it a lot easier for the individual in the field just to press on the microphone, record the message. It runs at about 90% accuracy, and that's all dependent on obviously your ambient noise, as well as the accent that the person talks in, because it is quite a standard algorithm that's run internationally. So just on the voice side, voice recording, there is the voice to text option that you do have.
Yeah, I mean, we also do this on Novade as well, right? So, but just to add to the point about data entry, right? So free text is always a nightmare for anybody, right? So if people can write out their own sentences or answers, this is something which is impossible to analyze. The simpler way to get analytics out of data entry is to define the potential options or field values and then make it a selection item. That makes categorizing your data and analyzing it much faster. Whereas, writing stuff down or even speaking out, we can do this, but we only typically do this for comments or things like this. Any critical data fields, best advice has always been to define options that are acceptable and make it a selection so that analysis is super simple.
Yeah. So, quick question on Fran was bringing up the kind of headset type world. Have you run Novade over a Google, not those blown headset things that Microsoft?
HoloLens?
That's it. You know what I meant. Have you run over the HoloLens yet?
We haven't done it yet, but like I said, every opportunity is a good opportunity to try it out, right? So if we find the right partner, we work on it.
That sounds.
How about this? The headset, we actually did this on one of the presentations. We had a virtual fair, and it was at a ballpark. So we had some people that are physically there. They put on the headset, and we used Microsoft Teams. So we saw what they saw, which is amazing, because now you can be on a construction site and look at a panel and describe something. You can even do identification of what that is by reading QR codes on the hardware. So you look at that and you say, read, QR code or whatever the tag phrase is, reads it and can come up with a schematic or details on maintenance. I'm telling you, this knocks your socks off, and they've gone so far ahead. They're not aiming in the commercial, sort of glass space or consumer space. They really are very heavily into the whole engineering space and all. And it's amazing, this stuff. I can send you a link later that if you want to follow up that showed a presentation that we had where they were at the ballpark out in Minneapolis, and they were going around and talking about things. It was more using it as a tour thing. And there are many, many other great videos that they have that talk about their capability and stuff. I'm telling you, this is the next generation. Forget, Microsoft will be in there somewhere, but I think they're looking at putting more. And it's not just with Teams; it also works with what do you have? You have GoToWeb or something like that, I think. It works with Zoom and.
Just
their main partners.
Just to refer back to what I was saying before. So the XR10 is that. So it's developed between Trimble and Microsoft. So it's a HoloLens 2 with the inbuilt helmet and the sound things. So that's now active in the market and being used in the UK now. So it's something I can show on another of interest.
Maybe when we do the correct webinar in May, perhaps, Mark, maybe we could show that.
Yeah, that's might be good for you. Yeah, I can look at that. Yeah.
Sorry, Ian, go on.
So a question for Sally here. So Fran was talking about the fact that these the glasses or whatever will pick up QR codes, barcodes, numbers from things that you're constructing on the site, assets, etc. Do you find, because it was laid down on the construction site for Crossrail, everything had to have a label.
Yep.
But that's a cost. And obviously it's a cost that the client will either pay for or not, or either dictate that you need to do or not. Are you finding clients wanting to put labels on things, or are they just shying away from that as a cost?
They're shying away from it. I think it's not just the cost, but the practical aspects of generating these QR codes and what sort of material you use to stick them on. Because we looked at putting QR codes on our plant, so that then we could scan the item of plant, and it would tell us whether it needed maintenance or any checks or anything like that. And we did use that on one of our motorways projects going back about 5 years now, and that worked really well. But again, the robustness of the stickiness or the whatever you're using to attach the QR code is the issue that we found with that.
Actually, Sally, because essentially we work extensively with QR codes for plant, equipment, humans, and even for
humans.
Right? Honestly, we check in people with QR codes, and we also use QR codes on precast elements right out of the factory to track them moving. Now, as you can imagine, like a precast element is not going to be, it's going to be exposed to a lot of rough situations. So there are actually pretty durable QR codes that can be generated and pasted, right? And there are solutions now to overcome that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing those as well.
I think the solutions are out there, but I think the problem here, of course, is who pays for that. Really,
yeah, that's the thing.
It adds on You know, I'm always coming down to this value thing in the fact that it adds on a cost, and the client will always, it's a sad fact, they'll always go for the lowest price, because that's just where clients are. They haven't got their heads around the proper value proposition yet. They haven't got their heads around the outcome-driven procurement yet, or, you know, no matter how much we tell them that the lowest cost is not the lowest cost, it will always be bigger. And that sort of value proposition is very difficult when you're saying that, okay, everything will have a, you know, a little sticker on or a label on or something like that, so you can track it for the rest. Yeah, well, I don't care about that. I only care about the capital costs. I want to build something and then throw it to somebody else. Who's going to pay for that? And I know the frustration here, because having a good QR code on something, or a V code, or a barcode or something, just helps you track things all the way from the manufacturer through the construction, through the operations, the whole life cycle, and enables technologies like the head-up displays, the helmets. That it just helps so much. Yet that value proposition to the person who's going to pay for it is just so difficult to articulate that it.
I think the mindset of our customers is that, you know, we've given you the contract to build this, for be it a brand new station out in Barking, East London, new viaduct, everything like that. You know, we are paying you to build that. What you're talking about in terms of identification of assets and stuff, you know, that's up to you, which means it would be our cost.
Completely. I think one of the interesting things is a project I'm working on with one of the organisations out there that is one of the stock exchanges, which raises the money to build these things. You know, billions and billions of pounds, it raises it through private funds. And at the moment, the bonds that they release are based on steel and concrete. And if we can change the terms and conditions of the bond to be based on digital as well as steel and concrete, it will mean that if you don't do it, the interest rates for borrowing that money to build your thing is going to be a hell of a lot higher.
Yeah, that's interesting.
If you do it and we can prove the provenance and the trust all the way through, then your interest rates are going to be lower, because actually, as an investor, that lowers my risk. Because if I start building something now and in 10 years' time I've got a lemon because it's not being built with the right materials, or I'm getting hit with cladding costs or whatever it might be, I've got a problem. That's why I charge you a bigger interest rate for building something. But if I can put the digital into the bond in the first place, makes me a happier investor, makes the client a happier person because it's lowering the costs, and it also makes the end user a happier person because they've got the trust in whatever has been built for them, and that we can start maintaining and operating it in a much more safer, productive, value-driven society. Hell, that's probably the whiskey and soda talking for the afternoon.
Can I need to wrap things up. We're at time. So I'll just quickly go around the room, starting with Mario first. Anything to contribute to finish off today? Thanks very much for being on the call. You're muted.
I know, I was getting feedback. No, nothing from me. Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks very much for your time today. Teas, anything from yourself?
No, nothing to add. Thanks for the session. It's great speaking to you all. Interesting thoughts all around. So pleasure, and look forward to doing it again.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good to join our first session, and we look forward to being on the next one.
Brilliant. And Sally?
No, it's been really good. Yeah, no, fantastic. Good to see everybody again. Would you be able to forward a list over of all of the attendees, please? Thank you.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, sure. And thanks to Fran coming in as a proxy. Thank you. And Jerry, thanks for your support.
Yeah, well done, everybody.
Ian, thanks very much for comparing the questions.
No worries.
I'll just just finally wrap up with the last couple of slides. Thanks to our sponsors, O2 and Rebim. Yes, the webinar recordings are available. Join the conversation. And we'll see you in April for the next one. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
if there's nothing else, I'm going to close down and we'll see you all again soon. Well, thank you all
Bye.
very much.
Thanks all.
Good
Really
day.
appreciate it.
Good day.
Have a good weekend.
Now, and you.
Bye.
Bye.